We likely have a pattern change coming up that could support the increased chances at severe weather across areas of the country as we get into the last couple days of March and really into early portions of April. And I'm going to speak heavily on that in this morning's video, and it'll probably be our main topic going forward. But to lead off the video, I do want to speak on a severe weather threat for later this work week. It's kind of crept up on us, if you will, and I want to speak on what's driving it, what can we expect. I don't think this is going to be a severe weather outbreak or anything like that, but I think the setup will be very similar to the last couple days worth of severe weather that we've been seeing across areas of the eastern U.S. So we'll do that first, dive into all the information we have about this pattern change coming up, and then we'll round the video off with today's weather. My name is Mitch. Good Monday morning. Hope you guys are doing well and having a wonderful start to your new week out there and had an awesome weekend. Subscribe if you haven't, like the video if you like it, and if anybody has anything I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling this morning. So, latest from the Storm Prediction Center. This is new information that we got from overnight. We do have a slight risk, a 15% risk of severe weather within 25 miles in a given location for portions of the Midwest for Thursday, day 4, and we don't know what's going to be the highest risk. Is it going to be hail? Is it going to be tornadoes? Is it going to be damaging winds? Right now, I definitely favor damaging winds and hail, but I'm sure there'll be a small risk of tornadoes too. But we'll have to watch this setup. But they are confident enough at this range, a few days out, that there will be some form of severe weather for Thursday into Thursday night. And I think this could last all the way into the wee hours of the morning, Friday morning. So if we just take a look at some operational runs here, and this is just the Euro, we're not in range of some of these short range models, and the Euro here just shows this energy, and we have a trough up here, kind of zonal flow, but there's going to be a dip in this trough, and there's going to be what we call a short wave, fancy terminology for just a weak low pressure that kind of rides the boundary of this trough and the ridge to the south. And you can see, colors in yellow and green here, and we got snow and winter weather to the north on the colder side of this. But as we start to move into Thursday evening, you can see, the reds and the orange and the yellows here. This indicates thunderstorms off the Euro run forming from the Midwest. Indiana, Illinois, Ohio, even into areas of southern lower Michigan, all the way into PA. And all this stuff sort of drapes north to south, which is kind of been our flow of any kind of severe weather that we've seen over the last couple of days. And I really think this setup will be very similar, but we're getting into like 9, 10, 11 o'clock Thursday night. And of course, the timing of this could switch up a little bit on us. And we just have this area of thunderstorms stretching from Missouri now through Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, all the way into upper portions of the mid-Atlantic into the Northeast. And it is cold enough just north for some snow into areas of interior New England. So we continue to move forward here, and we start to get into the overnight hours, Thursday night into Friday morning, and whatever's left over of this energy will continue to cruise over sections of the Northeast, the upper Mid-Atlantic, and the Appalachian Mountains, and then we get into Friday morning, and I think there is a chance we'll have a risk of some severe weather for Friday afternoon as this short wave sort of gets pushed north to south across areas of the eastern U.S. So we'll certainly watch for that, but there's definitely some cold air dropping down, so it'll be a chilly few days here for late March standards across areas of the eastern U.S. I don't think it'll be anything like record-breaking cold or anything like that, just a late season push of cold air, and we'll talk more on that here in a second when we discuss the pattern. But here's sort of the upper pattern discussion on what's going on here, and I won't touch on this very long, but you can see the blue up here. This is troughing. You can see the warmer colors, whatever color you want to call that, orange, kind of a combination of pink and red, but this is a ridge, and it's kind of zoned out, and we got flow at the base of this trough and the northern portion of this ridge, and we kind of have a little impulse of energy, a short wave dropping down in between both, and you can see just a little dip here. That is energy in the atmosphere. And I know you're thinking, well, if the energy's over here, why is the energy at the surface way over here? Well, this is just the upper pattern. This is kind of the push in the atmosphere. You already are getting a response kind of downstream in this area. So this is the main actual trough about to dig down, kind of the beginning of it. And then it really digs down across sections of the eastern U.S. And with it, you're going to get a funnel of cold air that gets pulled down like this. It's going to come down like this, and it's going to provide a chillier weekend, probably next weekend, or you can say now this coming weekend across areas of the eastern U.S. And the cooler air is going to start as early as Friday, maybe even Thursday for areas. So that's what's going on. Nothing too crazy. No substantial a dip in the jet or anything like that. There is one, but it's across areas of the eastern U.S. and it's not happening out west. But a big ridge is flexing out west in response to a trough digging in the eastern U.S. So that'll provide a quick few day cool down across the eastern U.S. and then the pattern begins to switch up, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But you can see how moisture builds up out ahead of this impulse of energy. Like this is Thursday afternoon of this week. We got a pool of dew points in the 60s, which are certainly thermodynamics and humid levels and dew points that support severe weather. And you can see this kind of pulls up across areas of the Midwest and the Ohio Valley and places like that. And this kind of hangs around with us. And then the atmosphere gets, if you will, swooshed out by a lot of dry air because this trough digs down and completely stabilizes the entire country, where we will not get any real threat of any kind of crazy severe weather, really thunderstorms in general for at least a few days as the atmosphere basically dries out in response to some colder air dipping through. So moving forward, what's next after that? And we're going to start off Friday and we'll kind of whip our way through that. This is Saturday, for example, and this is what I'm talking about. With all that dry air, most of the country is pretty stable, not a whole lot of anything one way or the other. And we start to get into early next week. So at this point, we're into about a week from today, next Monday morning, the last Monday of March. Crazy, we're about to enter April. Before you know it, we're going to be late summer. We're going to be talking about fall again. You guys know I love that time of the year, but let's enjoy what we got in front of us. But you can see, as we get in early next week, we start to get a little bit of a change. Still troughing, you can see by the blue line, still cold air dipping across the Northeast. They'll keep those areas pretty chilly in the sections of the Great Lakes region. We got this energy kind of drifting across the middle of the country. You want to watch that. I don't think that's too crazy, but between the day 8 to 10 range, I would say, there are signs for a stronger low pressure developing across the Rockies. And as the pattern switches up, you could have the return of flow going like this, okay? Instead of like what it's doing right now, which is kind of like that, okay? You're not going to get big severe weather events if the flow is going like that. But when it switches up and starts to go like this, that's when you get the return of severe weather for this time of the year. It causes a clashing of air masses, cold air kind of diving down here, warm moist air getting pulled up like this, and we start to get the return of severe weather. I'm not saying that this is going to be, a severe weather outbreak, but this is about 10 days from now. So midway next work week, like next Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, something like that, does show a stronger low pressure cutting across the country. And you just want to watch stuff like that. Has some winter weather on the cold side of this, storms, rain, maybe severe weather on the warmer side. But it still kind of doesn't fully cut. It kind of gets up here in a trough, kind of pushes it back down, and it kind of goes like this and then like that. And that's because we have this consistent kind of what I keep calling a jumbo trough up here in Canada. Kind of forces this back down, but here comes another low pressure cutting across the plains, and it looks like the pattern just starts to support more storm systems cutting across the country, whether it's across the eastern U.S., the middle of the country, the west. The pattern begins to reflect that again. And, that makes sense. When you look at the upper pattern, this is the Euro ensemble, there's that jumbo trough is what I keep calling it. And this is starting off Saturday. You can tell why if you look at your 10-day forecast, 7-day forecast on your weather apps, why it looks cooler across areas of the eastern U.S. And that you can blame on this. Colder air is dropping down the backside of this trough. So it's going to make for a chilly few days later this week into this weekend across areas of the eastern U.S. This is a big cold air source. It's just late March. I mean, you're not going to get really an Arctic outbreak. I mean, you can, but anyways, you continue to move forward. This trough kind of pivots through and then pivots out, and then this ridge builds back in. And as we're getting between that day 7 and day 10 time frame, you can see a more well-positioned ridge kind of spiking all the way up into the northeast, sets up. We got this trough over areas of the Pacific and just lighter shades of ridging across the west and Canada. And there is a symbol that it's not a strong trough signal. Let's actually move this a little bit more. But you kind of have a signal as we're starting to get to the first few days, several days of April, that we have maybe more of a sign of troughing out here and ridging here. Now, I know you're probably thinking, well, Mitch, I don't really see the blue colors right in here. Well, that's because there is some differences. Remember, just like when we look at the snow outputs, there's 51 members. There's 51 members on the upper pattern runs here too. So some continue to like to show maybe ridging out west, but some show troughing. So you blend everything together and there really isn't a sure bet sign of anything. But one thing I can tell you is it does look like the flow is going to shift. And if you look at that upper flow in response to these changes that you're seeing, and you can start it off this weekend, you can see it's a pretty strong confidence that the flow is going to be going just like this. Okay. And we drew that earlier on the map. If you're paying attention, that's not going to support much severe weather. And then the flow begins to change. And if you look really closely, and let's make this in pink here, you can see these little lines with the arrowheads on them, these little streamlines, and the flow's kind of going like that. That's going to bring that moist air from the south, still that chilly air potentially to the north, clashing of air masses, the dynamics kick in, and you run the risk of severe weather. You'll probably get high pressure right here, maybe a trough digging it down here, and you could get low pressures cutting across the middle. So, and this is starting to get, into the first day of April, which is really a time frame I want to watch. Kind of like, the last day of March, first day of April onward for our first big storm system that I want to watch for. But as we continue to move forward here, it looks like the setup kind of remains the same. A lot of flow shooting across the middle of the country. And, if you do look at the operational run of the Euro, I say this a lot, one of the first things you look for when trying to figure out if the pattern supports severe weather in the longer range is a moisture return. And I'm going to look at just the operational run of the Euro here. And once again, we've already showed you this. This is starting out this weekend. Most of the country is pretty stable. Dew point's pretty low. Teens, 20s, 30s just does not support thermodynamics for severe weather. But as we start to move into early next week, you start to get some more humid air, some more moist conditions that surge north. Okay? And then we start to get into midway next week, and we start to get this area of dew points getting into the 60s, and that starts to support severe weather rising all the way up into the Midwest. And then, it starts to kind of symbolize a bigger storm system somewhere in here. You got this moist sector rising all the way up into the Midwest, and definitely across areas of the deep south, western deep south, south central U.S., and in general, just look at this, that we start to get the return consistently of moisture shooting northward across the country. And at the further out we get, of course, the more fuzzier all the details get. But if there is a time frame, I would say watch out for our first big storm system in a while at least. It's going to be the last day or so of March, first couple days of April. And this is the Euro ensemble. And you can see there's a signal for lowering pressure across the Rockies in the middle of the country. So this tells me that, hey, we could potentially have some sort of low pressure cutting across here. Or it could be, over here. It could be over here. So we're just going to watch this area here. That's a pretty big circle, but you get what I'm saying. So we'll continue to try to figure this out. And this will be a big topic going forward until, as always, we actually have a storm system and event to really latch on to. But the 8 to 14 day precipitation outlook pretty much matches what we're talking about. This is between the 30th and April the 5th. This was issued yesterday, and it shows a good chunk of the country with a chance of above average precipitation. And this will mostly be in the form of rain or storms out instead of winter weather. I mean, we're starting to get into April. We're starting to wave our hands goodbye fully to winter. So most of this is going to be rain, but we got to still watch the upper portions of the country for you guys on the cold side of this that could get winter weather. And then you look at the 8 to 14 day temperature outlook, 30th through April the 5th, and you can see the confidence isn't high for below average temperatures. Like if you saw a big area of blue out here out west, this would tell me that there's a clear-cut signal for a trough digging across the west. But you can tell it's going to kind of, the confidence isn't as high for above average temperatures out west. In fact, they're just going for near normal in this time frame. But the upper portions of New England and the Northeast still hanging on to below average temperatures, but a good chunk of the country with a high probability of above average temperatures in this time frame. So, but moving forward here, this is today's weather. What's going on right now? We got a system shooting across areas of the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic. In fact, you might be dealing with a little bit of snow across Boston right now. Let me know what you're seeing in that area. We got some energy that's going to drop down and bed into this trough, and we're going to just get some blustery kind of snow shower type conditions across areas of the Great Lakes region, especially the further east you get into areas of the Northeast. We got this energy shooting across the middle of the country, waking up to some moisture across the middle of the country, Nebraska and Kansas, and watches, warnings, and advisories. It's pretty quiet. We got some winter weather advisories in New England. Not a big deal. There has been a switch up in the Storm Prediction Center outlook for today. They were thinking that we were going to get a risk of severe weather across the southeast today, a marginal risk, but they've actually done away with that. And there's just a general risk of thunderstorms across the coastal areas, the Carolinas down to Georgia. I don't think this will be a big deal today, but just speaking of it, this is the southeast. We are definitely going to get some thunderstorms that form very quickly just inland, and then they'll quickly get offshore here. But this is around 5, 6 o'clock this afternoon, this evening. We could get some thunderstorms along the North Carolina, upper South Carolina coastline. And just don't be surprised if you're vacationing along the Carolina coastline. You get some thunderstorms later this afternoon, this evening, and then a lot of it will race off sea. It just looks like the timing of the system sped up. So I guess the area, the real estate isn't as large anymore for these storms to develop. So heck, maybe there's a marginal risk out in the Atlantic Ocean. Anyways, moving forward, Northeast, a little burst of snow across Boston will be possible. And then this afternoon could have some more development of moisture. So could get some snow across Boston today, southern New England, and all across Northeast. Even as far back as northern Ohio, you can see lower Michigan there. Just some snow showers on and off. They're not going to add up to much, but definitely could put a dusting of snow on the ground, maybe even a couple inches. But definitely more of a winter type day today across the Northeast rather than spring. It's always tough across the Northeast to fully escape winter. You guys know that. But the South Central U.S., quiet, nice day. Tomorrow morning, you could wake up to some showers across Arkansas. The North Central U.S., we're going to get some snow showers across lower Michigan. So Detroit, you actually, excuse me, could get some on and off snow showers today. Another system will try to fly through, deliver a burst of snow probably across sections of the UP of Michigan late tonight to the early wee hour mornings of Tuesday. And this could kind of lead into tomorrow morning across the eastern sections of the UP. So the western U.S., pretty quiet weather. Nothing to really speak on at all. Little impulse of energy across the central Rockies. Bigger system begins to move back in across the Pacific Northwest tomorrow morning. But today, pretty quiet weather. Definitely a sharp temperature gradient across areas of the east. It'll be chilly across the Northeast, highs in the 20s and 30s. Mid-Atlantic, a chilly day, 40s. You start to get into southern VA points south into the southeast. One last really warm day before we get a pretty decent cool down throughout the middle portion of this work week. But it's chilly up in the Ohio Valley, 30s, 40s for highs. Not too bad across the upper Midwest for you guys' standards. But the deep south, 70s, 60s, 80s. And the west, not quite as warm as what we've been seeing. That's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. Appreciate everybody who continues to tune in, even in the slower times. Appreciate y'all so much. I really do. You guys are the core and foundation of the channel. But y'all have a wonderful start to your week. Make today great, even if it's Monday. And we'll talk again soon.